You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 2, episode 31, Cubs Pin the Padres. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to our podcast, and to follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670gmail.com. Crawly, happy Thursday. What a week.
Yeah, you know, it was a great series. I was at Wrigley last night. It was mighty chilly. I have now thawed out, and I'm ready to talk some Cubs baseball.
All right, well, let's before we talk about game one, or game two rather, let's talk about game one. That's when Justin Steele was on the mound, Blake Snell was going for the Padres, and this was the game that you and I felt most comfortable with when we previewed this series late last week.
Yeah, so the Cubs took this one 6-0, and just some key takeaways from the game. Justin Steele continues to dominate. He went 5.1 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. So, Dustin, that's 12 straight starts, allowing 2 earned runs or fewer. He has the best ERA since the 2022 All-Star break. You take a look at the names that I just put up here. Justin Steele, since the 2022 All-Star break, 108 ERA. Justin Verlander, 151. Dustin, your guy, Jose Quintana, 167. And Zach Gallen at 178. But Verlander and Quintana haven't even pitched in 2023 because of injury. Yes. So if you take a look, I mean, it's almost like a full run better than anybody else since the All-Star break in 2022. And that is really, really good to see.
It's really great to see. The other part, Crawly, that's great about this is homegrown talent, right? Something that the Cubs have been beat up about, and rightfully so, but this is homegrown talent.
Absolutely, and there's going to be more of that coming. So the other key takeaway that I was looking at here is Yan Gomes. Before the game, Yan Gomes had reached base safely in each of his last 7 games with hits in 6 of them, including 4 multi-hit efforts. Yan went 4 for 4 with a 2-run home run in the second and an RBI single in the 8th. He also threw out a runner in last night's win, his 3rd caught stealing in as many attempts. He's the first Cubs pitcher to have 4+ hits, including a home run, and catch a runner stealing since Henry Blanco, a.k.a. Hank White, did it in July 24th, 2005.
Hank White, huh?
Hank White, absolutely. And he at the time, after game 2, he was the only qualified catcher in the majors who has yet to give up a stolen base. So when you take a look at Yan Gomes, he's doing all the things that I said. When I said let Wilson walk, and everybody literally was angry with me, I said they want a guy that can call a game, a guy that's going, did I expect him to hit all these home runs? No, I did not expect that.
No, I don't think anybody did. And it was funny. Yan got a little, kind of funnily was with Taylor McGregor. Oh, what? You doubted me?
Right, but the thing I'm seeing, think about this, at a time when everybody's stealing bases, right? 2 disengagements, bigger pillows that you got out there, all this stuff, they're not running on him. Nope. They're not running on him. And so that tells you something about what he's doing. And just looking at the way that the Cubs are performing with him behind the mound, it is just absolutely phenomenal. I think he's just doing a really, really great start. Look at this stat here, Dustin. We were talking about Justin Steele. This is from Jordan Bastian. Justin Steele now has a 1.40 ERA with 70 strikeouts and 15 walks in 58 career innings with Yan Gomes behind the dish.
That seems like a connection right there, right? That seems like a connection. Going back to really quickly, and we had Ron Coomer on today with the Mully and Haw show instead of Friday this week because of the NFL draft, this little story that's going on in sports, Crawly. I know you're not concerned about it. But Coomer's ready to move off. Coomer's done talking about Wilson Contreras. Wishes him no disrespect, but he's like, that ship has sailed, that ship has moved along. But I don't think any of the Cubs pitchers went to bat, pun intended, for Wilson Contreras when management was trying to decide what to or not to do with him.
Right, and trust me, I was somebody that wanted to sign Anthony Rizzo. I wanted them to re-sign Chris Bryant. I'm not going to lie, but the one guy I was fine with them letting walk was Wilson Contreras. And again, it's a short sample size, but it's what I'm seeing out there. And when I watch the games and I see the way that he frames and the way that he receives the ball and just the way that he interacts with the pitchers, there's a lot to it. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I think that Yan Gomes.
Yeah, it's not the flashy. It's not the flashy stuff, right? It's not the stuff that makes SportsCenter. It's not the stuff that makes Twitter. It's not the stuff that makes Instagram or TikTok. People aren't going to go out and buy Yan Gomes jerseys or T-shirts unless you're an aspiring catcher, right? So that's the difference. You're totally right. It's the little things that don't necessarily show up in the box score.
Absolutely. And another important thing that comes out of this game is Nico Hoerner. He had a 3-run triple in the 8th to blow it open. That triple kept his 20-game on-base streak alive. Nico is slashing 347, 390, 870. So again, trying to calm myself down a little bit, but man, I mean, I expected him to have a good season. This is beyond my expectations for this start here.
Right, and it's almost like the extension, the contract extension, like unlocked him, right? Like maybe he was grinding on that, worried about his future, and now he's got nothing to worry about, knows where he's going to be for at least the next 4 years, and he is playing unbelievable baseball right now.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about from Game 1 is the bullpen. Alzolay, Leiter, Thompson, and Rucker all pitched scoreless innings. Thompson had 2 walks, and I want to get to that as a key point to the game today. But the walks for Keegan is part of a disturbing pattern, and sooner or later that's going to come bite him in the ass. I'm getting a little bit nervous on that. But here's the thing. With that 6-0 win, that was the 5th shutout by the Cubs pitching staff, tying the franchise records for the most shutouts in the first 22 games of the season. So tying the 1969 team, the 1907, and the 1902. And we still got a couple games left to go. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, just a few, good. Yeah. I love when we got the records going back to the early 1900s.
Oh, yeah.
All right, game number 2, Crawly. Drew Smyly and Michael Wacha.
Yep, I was there last night. They lost 5-3, and some things I had written down really quick. Drew Smyly looking really good once again. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs. They're both earned, 1 walk and 4 Ks. He received a no decision, but he has a 1.54 ERA, 4 earned runs to 23 innings pitched in the last 4 starts, allowing 2 earned runs or fewer of them. He has a 2.17 ERA at Wrigley Field since the start of 2022. And him and the next guy we're going to talk about, Trey Mancini, everybody was getting ready to cut them after like 2 starts. And it's just like, I know we were all getting kind of frustrated and he didn't have a really good spring, but this is baseball, man. It's like wine. You got to let this sucker breathe a little bit. Let things kind of play out and not freak out about small sample sizes. Same thing with Trey Mancini. He was 2 for 4 with the home run. He hit his 3rd home run of the year to tie the game in the 4th. He's 8 for his last 19, with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs in his last 6 games. So let's, like I said, let's kind of,
He needed to do that, Crawly, so we could back up. Here's the thing. I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said. Okay, I don't like the crowd. It's early. It's only April. It's not Memorial Day yet. You got to play 60 games to figure out what they are. Listen, every game counts. Every at-bat counts. They all matter. So it's never too early, especially when you got guys that can do the job supposedly at the minor league level. I wasn't ready to cut Trey Mancini. I wanted Trey Mancini here. But I wanted the heat on Trey Mancini, and I think he's responding a little bit to that heat. Not specifically the Dustin Rhodes heat, but there's a lot more than just Dustin Rhodes. I mean, Eric Hosmer as well. Hosmer finally has done a couple of things in the last couple of contests, right? But right. And Hosmer would have been an easier cut if you were going to cut somebody. I'll tell you what, if Drew Smyly wasn't left-handed, I don't know that Drew Smyly would have had his place that he had in the Cubs' plans this year.
I would disagree on that. I think they really like him. He liked playing for them, and I think that again, there's going to be a time where Nico Hoerner is going to struggle, and it may be a 2-week stretch or something. These things happen, and I think that baseball's not a sport where you just sit there and you keep sending guys to the minor and not playing them because they're struggling. A lot of times you're going to try to let them hit their way and pitch their way out of it, and that's just the way that it goes.
Right. I guess maybe that's the sports talk radio in me, where every day I'm reacting to what happens on the field, and you can't turn on a microphone, Crawly, and say, it's just one game. Doesn't matter. Let's give it another start. 312-644-6767. You know what's going to happen? Nobody's going to call, Crawly. Nobody's going to text. Nobody's going to respond. So it is our job. Like, we're reviewing the entire, like, we're previewing and recapping series. But on a day-to-day basis, I mean, if I'm investing now, it's less. If I'm investing 2.5 to 3 hours a night watching the Cubs, listening to the Cubs, I have the right after I've watched it to have a reaction to it.
Right. Absolutely 100%. But again, in baseball, Patrick Wisdom a week and a half ago looked like the second coming of Babe Ruth.
Sure.
And now he's struggling. These are just these are blips that happen.
And I would praise him those days, and I'd give him a hard time the next. That's all.
All right. Well,
I mean, that's like we'll do a radio here. We'll do a podcast on the Cubs after the 60th game, and then Crawly and I'll give you all the thoughts we have on the first 60 games. That doesn't work.
I hear you. And a guy that doesn't have any heat on him, Nico kept that streak going, 21 games with an RBI single in the 5th. Put the Cubs up 3-2. He's had 11 RBIs in his last 6 games, and he's reached base safely in 22 of the 23 games he played. I will say I did have some frustrations with that loss. I thought they could have done better against Michael Wacha. Michael Wacha's nothing anymore. They got 3 runs on 4 hits, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. And then Nick Martinez completely shut them down after that, able to get 3 innings. And he gave up 3 hits, no runs, 2 Ks. I thought Bob Melvin did a great job letting him work through the lineup one time. And on the flip side, I thought that Dave Ross was really quick to pull Alzolay just to kind of let the readers kind of know what was going on in this situation. He comes in for Smiley. He gave up a double, quote unquote, hashtag sarcastically, to Manny Machado on a ball that half lost in the lights. But then he gets out Xander Bogaerts, Nelson Cruz, and Jake Cronenworth to end the inning without a threat. Then in the 7th, Ha-Sung Kim, who had a great game, he went 2 for 3 at the walk, 2 runs, and 2 stolen bases. He hits a weak single, like it was a 70 mile per hour off the bat in front of Suzuki. And then Bob Melvin brings in a lefty, Trent Grisham, to pinch hit for Nola. Now, look, I know Alzolay is not great against lefties, but Trent Grisham is not Bryce Harper. You know what I mean?
He's on the team because he's a lefty. I mean, everybody, these lefties are so damn lucky they're lefty, half of them.
Right. So Ross pulls him, but here's the thing, like the next 3-4 batters are all righties. And so he pulls them for Brandon Hughes. And then here's the issue. If he would have gotten Brandon Hughes on, you would have had a runner at first, 1 out, and you would have had to face a bunch of righties like Jose Azucar and Fernando Tatis Jr. Okay. But so I would have rather had left Hughes. I would have rather left Alzolay in there, and then whatever happens to that batter, then he has 2 more righties to face, and he was looking really, really good. Instead, Brandon Hughes, who's supposed to get the lefty out, walks him, and now he has to face 2 more batters. Jose Azucar bunts to put runners at second and third, and Fernando Tatis hits a single, and so now all of a sudden you got a tie game. And then, they took the lead. And then to make matters worse, Ross calls on Julian Merriweather with a 4-3 lead in the 9th to pitch with his 8.38 ERA. And then that combination of Kim and Tatis Jr. scratch out another run. It's 5-3, and the Cubs needed 2 runs instead of 1 to tie in the 9th. I just wasn't happy, and that insurance run was huge. I totally agree with you, but this is what I'm talking about as far as like diagnosing and breaking down what we're seeing, right? He took out Alzolay too early, and then it was almost like he was genuflecting David Ross with Julian Merriweather. I think sometimes what managers will do when a guy's struggling like Merriweather is let them go into less high leverage situations.
Right. No leverage there, right? But I think the players around the rest of the team feel like, all right, this one's over. We're giving it away.
To me, like a 4-3 game, Cubs have shown they've been able to come back numerous times.
Absolutely, they have.
And they actually had what? They had they had 2 guys on run, at first base. So I think that was just some poor bullpen decisions. But hey, what do I know? But so that evens the series at 1. It takes us to game 3. Hayden Wesniewski versus Seth Lugo. a couple key takeaways. The Cubs win the game 5-2, and they take 2 of 3 from the Padres. Here's what I had written down here. I thought Wisniewski did not have his best stuff. He was kind of behind the hitters a lot, but I thought he grinded, man. I thought he grinded through that start. 5-inning pitch, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 3 Ks, and 1 homer to Manny Machado, which I'm just going to tip the hat. You're not going to get mad giving up a homer to Manny Machado. You know what I mean?
No, and before that game started, I had Pat and Ron on the radio, and they were predicting a high-scoring game, saying that any right-handed hitter basically put the bat on the ball in the air and it was going to get out of there. So kudos to everybody, kudos to Wisniewski for what he did.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this is kind of goes back to my point from the other night. Last night, the wind was a crosswind, so it was blowing really hard in from right. But if you could kind of get it towards the scoreboard that on left field, especially if you're a righty, right? You get it up into that scoreboard. There was like a jet stream that you could hit. And Mancini's ball last night did that. He got it right in between the scoreboard and the foul pole, and it just took off. But even then, it pushes it left, and a couple balls went left of the foul pole. And it was the same thing tonight, is that if you were a left-handed bat and you were trying to hit it to right field, the wind was crossing so much that it just pushed the balls down a lot. And that happened even more today. So, again, you get it in that jet stream to the left even today with the stronger wind. That's what you could do and you could see there. So, I love the fact in this game that the Cubs continue, you had back-to-back jacks by Horner and Velasquez. So I thought that was great. But the other thing
Hosmer and Velasquez.
Hosmer and Velasquez. And the other one that I thought was a really important thing is that they were able to add and tack on runs. Tucker Barnhart, they lucked out. This was a great play by Nick Madrigal. The center fielder, Trent Grisham, loses a ball in the sun, 2 outs. Madrigal is running his butt off and scores on that. Great base running by Nick Madrigal. Not so great by Tucker Barnhart. He ended up at first. He should have been at second on that. So just kind of but he's a catcher. We'll give him a break. Ian Happ added on to that. And how about Dansby Swanson with his first home run of the season?
Yes.
After going 0 for 17, he hits a home run. So absolutely great job. And so I was happy that they added runs. I will put one thing that kind of irritates me a little bit. The bullpen, too many walks today, man. You just can't do that. And like you were talking about, on a day when a wind is blowing out and you got a lead, Pat loves to say, no lead is safe, right?
No lead is safe, right?
And you can't sit there. You got Michael Fulmer. He gave up a walk. You had Mark Leiter Jr. He gave up a walk. Keegan Thompson gave up a walk and a hit. So now you got 2 guys on base, right? Anything in the air to left field, that's 3 runs right there. Boxberger gave up a walk. He was able to get a double play, but too many walks, especially when the wind's blowing out. You can't do that.
Yeah. So the Cubs, Crawly, are now 14-10 and take another series. You got the standings up here on the screen, and Cubs, little over 500, almost 600 ball. Milwaukee keeps winning, and how about the red-hot Pittsburgh Pirates?
18-8, 9-1 in their last 10 games. They were putting a beating on the Dodgers. Milwaukee, go take a look at their lineup. I invite people to take a look at their lineup and tell me how the hell they're doing this. I don't know. And then, Cincinnati is now on a 3-game winning streak. They're starting to do a little bit better again. They're behind the Cubs at 10-15. But St. Louis, 9-16. They've lost 7 out of their last 10. They're on a 3-game losing streak, Dustin. I can't have but giggle and smile on this.
Yeah, their TV studio analysts warning people not to go into any tall buildings in St. Louis, and all kinds of craziness going on in St. Louis. They sent their best prospect that they had up. They sent him back down to the minors. The manager does not seem to have any control of the clubhouse. So that is something that is very exciting to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right, couple little injury nuggets, Crawly.
Yeah, we knew that Cody Bellinger was going to be leaving soon. He was put on the paternity list on Tuesday, and Nelson Velasquez was recalled from Iowa. So Nelly doing great again. He's doing the most with his opportunities. And then 670 The Score and Audacy Sports baseball insider Bruce Levine was the first to report that Kyle Hendricks would be doing his rehab starts for Iowa. I thought it was going to be in a warmer climate. Not the case. And so he pitched today, actually. And our friend of the show, Alex Cohen, final line for Kyle Hendricks, 1.2 inning pitch, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 Ks, 1 walk. Alex says the good news, fastball topped out at 89.3. He looks healthy. First outing for Hendricks in almost 10 months is going to be a process. It's what I've been saying all along. He's not, I mean, give him time. He's going to need more time. And so, you know, that to me right there, this is going to be, he hasn't faced live batters in over a year.
Yeah, this is something, this Crawly, I will agree with you. This is something that's going to take time, and they're doing it the right way. I did see Kyle Hendricks on the Marquee Network, a little video from him, and he's trying to stay positive. He's not happy, but he said he was working on some certain things. Some certain things were working right for him, so he figures in 3 days he'll be back out there for another rehab start.
Yep. So we'll see, but we'll kind of keep an eye on it, right?
Absolutely, definitely. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll let the listeners to this podcast know what's up. Jed Hoyer was on with Parkins and Spiegel earlier in the week talking about Matt Mervis and Christopher Morel.
Yeah, for those of you that haven't been paying attention to the minors, I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous right now what those two guys are doing. Right now, Christopher Morel his slash line right now is 321, 470, or I'm sorry, 430, 744. He has 10 home runs in 21 games. He literally is almost hitting a home run every other game. He's got 7 doubles and a triple. Again, the strikeouts are still up there at 28, right? That is a lot of strikeouts in 20 games, but very, very impressive. And then when you take a look at Matt Mervis, and that's the position, like I said, with Eric Hosmer, that you can really kind of scratch your chin and think about that this is someone that could help immediately and have everyday at-bats without having to juggle anything. You could literally have him either hitting playing first base or pinch hitting every day. But in 21 games for Matt Mervis, less home runs. He has 7 home runs, 23 RBIs, 4 doubles, and he's slashing 294, 409, 591. And he has 17 strikeouts, so almost 11 less than Christopher. But, you know, Jed was obviously asked about that, and on the Parkins and Spiegel, this is what he had to say. And you can find all these interviews, whether it's the Mully and Hall, Parkins and Spiegel, whoever, on the Audacy app, which is where I got this from.
What is the more tempting button, to borrow from your intro song, to call up the red-hot Christopher Morel for outfield depth, or to call up the red-hot Matt Mervis for lefty slugging? Which one tempts you more?
I mean, they're great. They're both, good problems to have. And so, as you would say, like, they're both playing exceptionally well. They're both really good players. They're both going to impact the Cubs a lot this summer. And, certainly, like I said, we're obviously paying attention to what's going on there. And I think both those guys know they're gonna get their shot. We want to make sure when they get their shot, they're ready and they're playing every day. And like I said, it's great to have those discussions, right? We have a number of guys playing really well in the minors, and I think those are the discussions you want to have because, like I said, we're gonna need them. Things are gonna happen. And when Italian went on the IL, you need people to step up and perform. When Seiya was on the IL, we had to get through that period, and we're going to have a lot more situations like that, and we just need to be able to withstand that because it's never an excuse, right? It's part of the game. And right now Cody's out for a couple of days on the paternity list, and we expect Nelly to step in really well and play well, and that's what you have to expect to be a good team. You have to expect the guys you call up to play really well.
And Velasquez has played really well. I thought that they maybe could have given Christopher Morel a little carrot, if you will, because of how well he's been playing. But, hey, they picked Velasquez again, and he has been delivering.
And, Dustin, you know how angry I was that Velasquez didn't break with the team. That
right.
was instead of Mastrobuoni. So, Jed again, he made it very clear he wants these guys playing every day and having everyday at bats. And to me, Matt Mervis is the guy that fits that description, that can come up and you don't have to juggle anything. You don't have to give days off to anybody. He literally can be there day one. If you cut Hosmer, no big loss. And then eventually, if you wanted to, let's say Mervis starts struggling and you want to bring him down, you can have Wisdom, kind of go back and forth playing first, and you could have Morel at third if Morel's still being hot. There's a lot you can do. But right now, today, Matt Mervis can be up here, and you wouldn't have to. You would be a better team for it, and you wouldn't have to juggle or play around with anything.
Little sad news coming out of an establishment that we've all bent an elbow at. Murphy's Bleachers lost one of their own.
Yeah, Beth Murphy, the beloved owner of Murphy's Bleachers, passed away after a long battle with cancer. Her and her husband Jim bought the bar from Ray Myers, who owned the bar from 65 to 1980. Ernie, actually, not Ernie Banks, but a different Ernie owned it before then. But Murphy's was the home for many of the Cubs players and fans alike, especially obviously in the 80s and 90s. It was huge. She was a big part of the Lakeview neighborhood. She always stood up for the small businesses, and she will be missed. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family and the workers at Murphy's Bleachers, and they do have a banner up there now today that wasn't there yesterday. That's up that Paul Sullivan tweeted out earlier.
Yeah, I also saw a picture. Thought it was nice that inside of Wrigley Field they paid tribute to Beth Murphy, even though Beth and Tom Ricketts and stuff didn't always get along with rooftops and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, she was one of a kind, and she will be missed.
Absolutely. You are listening to Season 2, Episode 31, Cubs Pin the Padres. In this segment, Crawly continues an interview with Mick Gillispie, the play-by-play announcer for the Tennessee Smokies. Here's part 2.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, we have your play-by-play announcer for your Tennessee Smokies. As we continue our Down on the Farm segment, we have now moved up to Double A. Mick Gillispie, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, what do you say, man? I'm doing good, and glad to talk to you, Crawly. Let's get some beers, man.
You guys got a loaded outfield, and it's tricky probably to find playing time for all these guys. When you take a look at this, you're talking about PCA, you're talking about Owen Casey, you're talking about Jordan Nwogu, Cole Roeder, Zach Davies. It is an unbelievable amount of talent that has come up in the outfield. Let's talk PCA, man. Obviously, the Cubs' #1 prospect. We saw an amazingly ridiculous slide the other day, Javi-esque, plays in the outfield. Everybody that I talk to says, every tool is ready. It's just the hit tool that's just got to be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, look, I feel like the guy can do it all. He's a young guy. Maturity might be an issue for him. It's crazy that mom and dad are actors, he grew up out in LA, and his parents are phenomenal actors. And this guy can take over a game. He's really fun to watch, and he's a young guy. The biggest problem that he's going to run into is just his motivation. How motivated is he to do things the way that they need to be done to get to where he can get to, and how motivated is he going to be to keep it going? Because he's as talented to me as KB, as Javi, as Kyle Schwarber. And it's a different type of talent, but he's got some pop. He runs the bases with abandon, but I don't want to say reckless abandon because it's intelligence abandon. He just reads the ball. He's so fast. He's excellent defensively in the outfield. He's got some pop. I'm a super fan. I just hope the maturity's there because what I see, the scout hat coming on, this guy's, man, he's got it all, So I'm super excited for what his potential is. And I'm curious to see, how that is going to translate into playing every day. But I can't imagine him not being the Cubs center fielder of the future. I just can't see it. I all the stuff that this guy brings to the table and his ability to lead off and the speed and everything else. Man, this guy's got so many tools.
Well, what blows me away is that, when you think about the history of the Chicago Cubs, and I say, name me the best Cubs center fielder ever, that
who do you think? Who do you say?
See, that's the thing.
Dernier?
That's the thing. Dernier was good, but it's you don't have
Juan Pierre. Really? I'm just asking you.
Dexter Fowler. Where are you going with this?
I don't think Dexter didn't play long enough for me. I think Dexter was good for the year. How many years was he in Chicago? Okay, he got the World Series. And I love Dexter, but Bobby was how many? He was there for a while, and Juan Pierre was there.
I think he was only there for 3 years. He came over right around 84, 85, 86, like 3 years. And again, like, his prime years were a little bit before that. So that's my point, I guess, is that when you look at these center field, like the Cubs have a very weak history in that position. And that's where
I know
PCA kind of gets me excited, because I don't want converted second baseman, or like people like put Chris Morel in center. And I'm like, no, guys, like just looking at Cody Bellinger and what he's done, and just watching this guy glide. I was in the bleachers the other day and I'm like, oh my God, he is right there. Like I watched the ball off the bat and the next thing I know, Bellinger's right there. That's just, you can't teach that, Mick.
No.
You can't teach it. Either you do it or you don't.
Think, I got a lot of crap on social because, I'm not about trying to pay some of these guys a ton of money when I don't really believe that they're total difference making type of players. But the Cody Bellinger deal for the Cubs to me felt really good because this guy's got nothing but potential, and he's an MVP. I mean, he's a guy who could be the difference if the Cubs make the playoffs this year. He's that type of guy. Plus, he's playing, for his contract right now. I mean, we saw the best of Jock Peterson before trading him to the Braves, and he helped them win the World Series, kind of different, but the same, like a guy who's really out to prove something. Cody Bellinger's better than Jock Peterson. And I get it, man. Like seeing him in center field and what he can do and all that stuff. But Pete Crow Armstrong isn't Bellinger. Pete Crow Armstrong's like your prototypical, like Gold Glove. I'm cutting off the balls in the gap. I'm making the diving plays. I'm leading off. I'm getting on base. I'm stealing bases type guy. I love Nico at the leadoff spot, but I could slide him down to number 2 and have, PCA leading off. And I think it would be a damn good lineup, man. I mean, like moving forward, I'm just curious to see how hungry, Pete Crow Armstrong is, once he gets there, because he's going to get there to be the best that he can possibly be. Because, I mean, I really feel like you said, you look at the Cubs and their history. I mean, we've been fans a long time. There really hasn't been that, like, guy.
Nope.
Field leadoff type dude. He's that guy. He could be.
That's what I'm thinking. And when you talk about the maturity, I think people forget he's 21, and even younger than that is Owen Casey, who's, you look at that guy, lefty, 20 years old. He just played for Team Canada and had a good run. He's another guy that has a lot of people really excited. It's hard to believe that these kids are all so young. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't jump off the page like Pete Crow Armstrong, but you're talking about great arm, right fielder, power, drives and runs. I see him developing at a little slower rate, but it's a different position too. Right. Because he's expected to hit home runs and drive in men and all that stuff, and I definitely could see that happening. I mean, he's got the frame. He hasn't even grown into it yet. Like he's a guy. He's like still a kid, but he's got a really good eye. He's another player that I would circle. I don't put him on the same level as PCA yet, but at the same time, like I could definitely see him being someone who is just a cornerstone for the Cubs in the future.
Okay, I'm saving the best for last because I look at your starting rotation. Oh Lordy, I mean that is a deep rotation. When you take a look at Jordan Wicks and Porter Hodge and Ben Brown and Daniel Palencia and Ryan Jensen, those are some dudes right there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Ben Brown. He was traded by the Phillies to the Cubs at the deadline last year for Robertson, and he's been so good, man. He's second in the league in earned run average. He's big and lanky and throws strikes and attacks hitters. He's probably the first guy I would imagine from this team to get promoted. And so, there's a lot of excitement around him. Jordan Wicks is still young, and I think he still has a lot of developing to do, but he's a left-hander who disguises the ball really well. Like, it's hard for batters to pick up what he's bringing to the plate, and he's another guy that's going to be in the big leagues. No doubt about it to me. Like, and it's probably going to be sooner than later. I mean, I feel like he's kind of like right there. You know, for him, it's just like being consistent in the strike zone. But, you know, the left-handed delivery and what he brings to the table and the fact that he's a prospect, talk to him today. He's a really good guy on top of it all. So, you know, he's another guy. I feel like Palencia's got some work to do in this league, but, you know, there's no doubt about it. You can't put aside the success that he's had. And, you know, and Ryan Jensen is someone that I feel like could really be an asset out of the Cubs bullpen. I'm not ready to give up on him as a starter. The biggest thing is he's got, first off, he's a really good athlete. Like, he's just built like a guy I don't think is going to get hurt a lot. He's just got a thick build. You know, he's not very tall, but he's got big hands and big arms, and he can throw, you know, like he's a thrower. And all it is for him is just, and he's got a ton of movement. It's just like, look, if you can just repeat your delivery, just repeat it, you know, just keep on repeating your delivery. This guy could really be an asset for the Cubs. And if he got really good at it, he could be a starter, and maybe not, he'll be a reliever. But I like him a lot too. You know, I just do. I mean, I really like him.
And like I said, Porter Hodge, you know, hopefully he can have some success. And then we didn't even mention DJ Hurst.
Out. Yeah.
DJ Hurst, who's on the 7-day IL. Are there any relievers that you've kind of said, you're looking at that stuff and kind of draws your attention there, Mick?
Well, look, Kane Eckert, who's dealt with some injuries, but I mean, he's got big league stuff, you know, and I'm honestly, I'm kind of surprised that he's back here, because it was a couple years ago that he was so good. But, you know, he's a guy that I would circle and say, hey, you know, get healthy and get back. And I feel like the Cubs have done a really good job of developing the relief pitcher. And I think that's going to be a strength for the big league club. And it already is. I mean, I think it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, those arms are coming. Now, Mick, for people that have not been to Smokies Stadium, tell the listeners why they should come visit, you know, come down to Tennessee, to Kodak, Tennessee, and visit the Tennessee Smokies.
Since 2007, the Smokies have been the Cubs AA affiliate. And I think that anyone that's watching would really enjoy. And look, honestly, man, we've had a lot of people that have come down and spent their vacation, hey, checking out some games. But it's a really laid back atmosphere. It's a great place to watch baseball. The prices are excellent. And one of the biggest things that the team tries to do is just making it a friendly environment, man. Like we're trying to be our moniker is America's friendliest ballpark, and we take that seriously. You know, like if you come down Crawly, we're going to take care of you. You know, if you, whoever you bring with you, we're going to be nice to you, man. Like we're just laid back. There's definitely, you know, kind of that you know, Southern hospitality that they try to have there. You know, we just have a good time. I mean, it's a really, I've been down here a long time, and it's just a really fun atmosphere where we just try to be very inclusive, and we try to be funny and throw out that hospitality. And I think if you came down, you'd really enjoy it.
I'm going to work on that, Mick, because it is my goal to get down to see the Smokies. It's my goal to hang out with you in your stomping grounds.
Love it.
And it is my goal to see this team that really, like I said, just for any of the prospect hounds out there, like I said, 11 of the top 30 prospects, that's almost half the top prospects are sitting there in Tennessee. So If you're going, I'm just encouraging any Cub fans. If you get an opportunity to get out this year, or you're planning a family vacation still, really, really give it a thought here, because trust me, Tennessee's calling my name. I can tell you that much. So I appreciate your time today, Mick, and I'm glad to hear you calling the games, and keep doing what you're doing, man, because we love it up here.
Hey, that's all I'm trying to do. And you guys keep up the good work too, and everybody at the Score, man. Great to see you. And let's hope that the Smokies, maybe this is their year to win the championship. But honestly, if the Cubs could compete, and a lot of these guys turn into big time talent at the major league level, that would be even better.
Sounds good, Mick. You take care, and thanks again.
Hey, anytime.
In this segment, Crawly will preview the Marlins series by taking you down to South Florida. Alex Krutchik, host of the Marlins podcast, The Fish Stripes, to see what's happening down in South Beach.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, I am happy to welcome Alex Krutchik from the Marlins podcast, Fish Stripes. What is going on, Alex? How are you?
How's it going, Paul? Things are doing pretty well. Just a couple hours removed from a pretty big comeback win for the Marlins against the Braves. It was pretty fun to watch, follow along with. It's something that never seems to happen to the Marlins in Atlanta. Atlanta's been the thorn in the Marlins side for years. I'm sure the Cubs have a team like that, where it's just a team that you cannot beat them, especially when you go to their city.
Well, St. Louis has always kind of been the traditional rival, so that's always been the one that had been frustrating. But one of the great all-time moments for us is when the Cubs beat them in 2015, the first time they faced each other in the postseason. So, yeah, it is hard because Atlanta's like a perennial, always in first place, always in the postseason. So I get what you're saying.
It's one of those things where they're always really, really good already, and then they kick it up a notch against the Marlins. But it was fun.
Well, that's good. So both teams, the Cubs and the Marlins, who face off this weekend, are coming off victories. So that's got to be good. The Cubs took 4 of 6 from your Marlins last season. They took 2 of 3 in Wrigley in August and 2 of 3 from the Marlins in Miami in September. And Alex, I was talking to Blake Harris from the Inside the Ravine podcast with the Dodgers. We just finished playing the Dodgers twice, and we don't play them the rest of the year. And I was talking about how dumb that is, because you guys played us last year in August and September when the Cubs, after the All-Star break, ended up being one of the best teams. If you'd have played us in April, May, June, it was a completely different team.
Yeah, of course. It's one of those weird things where sometimes it really helps, sometimes it really hurts. If the other team is injured or they're just kind of cold, it's one of those things where you love it. The Marlins, I'll give you an example. The Marlins played the Phillies a couple weeks ago. The Phillies are going to be a very good team this year, but they started off very cold. I would have loved to play them a couple times more if we could have, just because when you play teams back-to-back, you either get them when they're really hot or really cold. It just depends on how the cards fall that day or that week.
Yeah, and so last year you guys got us when we were in their hottest stretch. Yeah, that August-September stretch was and September. I mean, it looked like a completely different team. You wouldn't even have recognized that team from April and May. But that team is not the team you're facing. The Cubs made a ton of off-season moves. Finally, after a few years of not spending much, they kind of are back on the market. They picked up shortstop Dansby Swanson, pitcher Jamison Tyone, Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer, Tucker Barnhart, Brad Boxberger, Michael Fulmer, and they re-signed Drew Smiley. So, I mean, a ton of moves, but the obviously the big loss was Wilson Contreras. He's now playing for the Cardinals that I was talking about. And then Wade Miley is now north of the Cheddar Curtain over in Milwaukee. So those are the moves that the Cubs have made. And you can see a lot of it is, James Swanson's a big one, obviously, but a lot of high character guys, and it's just brought a winning attitude to Chicago.
Yeah, it's been fun to follow along with you guys when I can. And is it Cody Bellinger? You guys are enjoying him up there?
Yeah, he actually, I don't know if he's going to be in this series. He just had a child. His wife had a child. Excuse me. His wife had a child, and what ends up happening is that he took paternity leave. So we've had Nelson Velasquez, who's a real young, bright talent coming up. But, yeah, watching Cody Bellinger, I mean, the Cubs have had a very long history of bad center fielders. So watching that guy play, even if he doesn't hit, and he's been doing pretty good with the bat as well, but just watching him defensively is out of this world.
It's been fun to watch for sure, because Cody Bellinger is one of those guys where he comes into the league, he plays very well, and then out of nowhere, I'm not the strongest talent evaluator, so I can't look at him and figure out what the heck went wrong with him. But he just had such a dip in performance the last couple of years, so it's fun to see that he's back to at least semi-close to where he could be.
Well, that's the hope, and it's a one-year prove-it deal, so he's got a lot riding on this, and for the Cubs, they kind of, you know, they took a gamble, and they paid a big price. I mean, it's not – I mean, $20 million isn't anything to sneeze at, but based on his production the last couple of years, that's a pretty high salary for a guy that was struggling. So, you know, I think the deal worked out for everybody, so we'll see what happens, and hopefully he'll be back for the series.
Yeah, of course, it'll be fun to watch him. It'll be fun to watch him down here in Miami if we could see him.
So what did Miami do this offseason to kind of change the team up a little bit?
Well, speaking of deals to work out for everybody, I'm going to start with Luis Arraez. He was, of course, the American League batting champ last year, and as of right now, he's in line to win it in the National League this year. He was traded to Miami in January. The Marlins sent away pitcher Pablo Lopez, who now looks like a possible Cy Young candidate. I know it's only been a few starts. It's only April. But working with what we have right now, he looks like a possible Cy Young candidate. We also sent away prospect hitter Jose Salas. Luis Arraez has been so impressive, not only because of obviously how well he's hitting, but Miami has not been historically good at hitting under this current ownership group. So many free agents and trade acquisitions and draft picks have come in, and they just fall off. Luis Arraez is one of the only guys that I could think of under Kim Ng, under Bruce Sherman, who has come in and actually exceeded expectations. So let's take a look at some stats. Aside from opening weekend, when, you know, the stats are really wonky even by April standards, his batting average peaked at 537. His average has gone down since then by virtue of the fact that no one can hit the ball more than 50% of the time over a long sample size. But he hasn't slowed down. He's still hot. He's got 10 hits in his last 7 games, and that includes one game where he went completely hitless. He is a very throwback player. The only thing he's missing is a little bit of speed. He's not the fastest guy, but he just puts the ball in play. He's not a huge home run hitter. But he puts the ball in play and he gets on base. He's been bouncing around between the number 1 and the number 3 spot in the lineup because, like I said, he's not a traditional leadoff hitter in the sense that he's not really fast. But at the number 1 and number 3 spot, he's been pretty productive wherever he is.
Nice. Who else did you guys got any other good pickups?
Well, one of the guys that I'm most impressed with, and I'll talk about him a little bit more later when we talk about some of the guys that have been real hot for the Marlins, but AJ Puk, I don't want to give out all the information yet on him, but he's one of the first closers in a long time where I don't get heartburn when I see him come in with a tight lead. He's been so productive. He's been so trustworthy. The only name I could think of, AJ Ramos from, you know, the mid-2010 era for the Marlins, but even he would let up, you know, a hit here, a walk there. It was a roller coaster with him. AJ Puk doesn't allow hits or walks so many times. He'll go 1, 2, 3. So that's been a great acquisition. He was the one that the Marlins got from Oakland when we sent away J.J. Bleday. Kim Ng, for all of the criticism that she gets, and some of it is deserved, some of it isn't, she will fleece a team. I think that J.J. Bleday, for what looks like a lockdown closer, a long-term lockdown closer, it's a steal. So that's who I am also very impressed with. We got a couple of other guys that they acquired that I'm not too happy with what I've seen, but also kind of expected. They got Gene Segura. He has been, in the nicest way possible, just a net negative. On offense, there's nothing to really speak of. He's not just a strikeout hitter. He's actually worse. He grounds into double plays a whole lot. guaranteed he's going to ground into at least one double play this weekend. He's tied for the major league lead with 7 groundouts. His fielding hasn't been great. He's got a .915 field percentage. He's got a few errors. When you watch the games this weekend, I guarantee you'll see at least 3 throws that go over the first baseman's head that he's going to have to corral. So, I mean, he keeps the first baseman awake and active, that's for sure.
I remember Gene Segura from his Milwaukee days. Speaking of Milwaukee days, can you guys stop giving Milwaukee players? Because we talked about Pablo Lopez and how he's gone, but Brian Anderson, right?
Yeah, that was a real hot start. He's cooled down a little bit. And, I selfishly was like, thank God it's not another Christian Yelich situation. But also I was happy to see him. He was very good with Miami his first couple of years. A combination of injuries and just, your typical ebbs and flows in a career. He didn't look too hot the last year or two he was here. But that almost looked very Christian Yelich like. He has cooled down a little bit. But yeah, were you guys getting nervous up there?
Yes. I was so mad. I was like, God bless it. But I'll tell you something, and I'm just going to bring this up, and I'm going to bring it up nicely. I was sitting here, and I go to a lot of different games in different ballparks, Alex, and it was me and some Marlins prospect blog, but I got an email, and I put this out here. What were you guys doing with this Bartman email? What was going on with that in Miami?
Oh boy. So this was a real email that some of my colleagues also got, but the Marlins backtracked and said it was sent out in error. Look, I didn't like it. I feel terrible for the guy. I don't feel terrible for the select Cubs fans that, made his life that way, but I feel so terrible for him. He doesn't want to be bothered. He doesn't want to do, even after the Cubs won the World Series, he didn't want to be part of the celebration or anything publicly. Like, remember when I believe it was the Red Sox that brought back Bill Buckner and everyone, well, we forgive you in public now because we won the World Series. I don't think that Steve Bartman wanted anything to do with that. So I do think that the Marlins made a little bit of a faux pas with that because now we're talking about Steve Bartman again. Now Steve Bartman's back in the spotlight, and now his face is probably red, and he's probably sweating a little bit because he's like, oh, my God, they haven't spoken about me in years. And now here they go again. Yeah,
it's hard to believe it was that long ago, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
20 years ago. And I was actually at all the games, game 1, 2, and 6 and 7, all the games at Wrigley. So it brought up bad memories for me. But thinking about positive memories about this weekend series, let's take a look at the pitching probables right now. We got game 1, Marcus Stroman versus Jesus Luzardo. Stro has been really good for the Cubs all year. The last start wasn't the greatest. He's 2-2 at the 2.17 ERA. He got torched. We got the Dodgers. We beat them in Los Angeles, but the Dodgers really did a number at Wrigley. They took 3 of 4 against the Cubs. So Stro gave up a couple of long balls in that game, and it kind of got away from him in the 6th inning. But in general, he was really one of our better pitchers this whole season so far.
Yeah, he's been pretty fun to watch. And as for Jesus Luzardo, he will also be fun to watch at his absolute peak of potential. And we did see that in one game against the Twins earlier this year. He pitched 7 innings, struck out 10, gave up 1 run. Since then, he's kind of been an average pitcher, which has been a little concerning to see. I'm not actually concerned about him, but it's been kind of frustrating to watch because he was one of those guys where a lot of people down here in Miami were saying Jesus Luzardo is going to be great, but I was one of those ones that was saying he might be just as good as Sandy this year. He's got a great fastball. He's got a great arsenal. He's got velocity. He's got movement. He's got length as well. He could be efficient enough to pitch 7 or 8 innings consistently, but we haven't seen that this year. He's kind of been cold the last couple starts. Each of his last 2 starts, he's only gone 4 1/3. In his last start against Cleveland a few days ago, gave up 4 runs. Start before that against San Francisco, he gave up 3 runs. Start before that against Philly, gave up 3 runs. So he hasn't been as efficient lately. If he can be efficient and stop walking guys, stop getting into deep counts, stop giving up 8 hits, 6 hits, 8 hits a game, he's going to be a fun watch. And I do hope that this will be a good pitching matchup, which I suspect it will be if both of these guys can channel the best that they can be.
Right. So that's probably the best pitching matchup of the weekend, because on Saturday, you guys have Edward Cabrera. All I've seen is TBD. I don't know if they've updated or changed anything, but Jamison Tyone, one of the Cubs free agent acquisitions, did something with a groin, and it really hasn't been explained that well, but he's just long tossing and he's been out. So the question is, are they going to go with a bullpen game, or I'm sure they're going to call somebody up. Javier Assad was called up earlier for Jamison Tyone. He had a great spring training, a great World Baseball Classic, and then flopped right out of the gate. And so he was down in AAA, and they're working on some things. But potentially him, potentially Roenis Elias, who was also in the WBC for Team Cuba, but not really sure exactly what you guys are going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, this is going to be a whole weekend of TBD, because I believe, if I'm correct, the Marlins currently have TBD listed on Sunday. Let me just check that real quick. But I do believe, if it's not already listed officially, I do believe, from what I've heard, and then this is nothing official that I know of yet, but I've heard that it'll be Brian Hoeing, who has been in the minor leagues for the Marlins, did make a start this week against Cleveland. I believe it was Cleveland. It was either Cleveland or earlier in the Atlanta series. Did pretty good for a spot starter. He's going to give you innings. He's gonna give you a chance to win. He's a good pitcher, but he's a spot starter. He'll be back down as soon as Marlins guys get healthy. As for Edward Cabrera on Saturday, he's another one of those guys. I briefly mentioned it with Jesus Luzardo. If he can stop walking guys, he's another guy who is sensational. He's got a disgusting curveball. Probably, if I had to say, I would say it's the best curveball in the Marlins rotation off the top of my head. He gave up 4 runs in 4 1/3 against Atlanta a few days ago. And that was also by virtue of walking 4 guys in part. So if he can keep control and keep walks off the board, I think that's another exciting one.
All right, so you're preaching. You're saying the Cubs should be patient in their approach here with some of these younger Marlins pitchers.
Some of these guys, definitely. I would say, if I had to give out the scouting report, I would say that Saturday when Edward Cabrera pitches, just kind of watch a few pitches. Definitely don't go first pitch swinging.
All right. Now, good luck to you guys on Sunday, because you mentioned Brian Henning is who I have down here too as well. But he is going to take on the big lefty Justin Steele, 4-0 with a 1.19 ERA. Since the All-Star game last year, he has the lowest ERA of any starter in baseball since the All-Star break last year. So it has really just clicked in for him, and it has been so fun to watch this kid pitch. He literally I don't know. He's got that bulldog mentality in him, and he just goes out there and he does it. And so he's, like I said, 4-0. Last start was against San Diego. He didn't go 6 innings, so it's the first time in a while he hasn't had a quality start. But he went 5.1 innings and gave up 3 hits and no earned runs. So, I mean, when you just go down the list, it's 4 hits, 1 run. 3 hits, 2 runs. The first start was a little bit shaky of the year, but ever since then he's just been on fire.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And where did he come from, if you don't mind? Because that's a name that I've heard around, but I'm not familiar with his game. What's he all about?
So Justin Steele was drafted by the Cubs in 2014. And then just a combination of different things, injuries, COVID, all this stuff. He kind of came up then as a reliever. And then last year he took he started some 2 years ago in 2021. He had some starts, and then he competed for a job in 2022. And he did really good, but then something, just like I said, clicked in especially in the second half, and the guy became just otherworldly. And so it's been a fun to watch. And the Cubs are not known for developing pitching that much. So, I'm trying to think, maybe Carlos Zambrano and Mark Pryor, who were in those 2003 teams,
yeah.
But in general, not the Cubs' strong suit. So having someone that comes up from our system has been really exciting.
That's awesome, especially when they've been in the minors for that long. I know it's a little bit different of a story, but that Maggie guy, is it Drew Maggie? with Pittsburgh. That was 33 years old, just came up from the minors. Those kinds of stories are cool.
Yeah, and Justin's still pretty young, relatively young. He's only 27. So, it's good to see him, breaking out and kind of having some good success here. So really good guy too. Good kid. So going to be a fun one on that one. So as we kind of go into this weekend, we're going to do some hots and nots. And one guy, when you talk about leadoff hitter, our leadoff hitter, we finally actually have one for the first time since Dexter Fowler. Nico Horner has been on fire lately. Last 7 games, he's batting .333 with 2 home runs and 10 RBIs, 9 hits and 27 at bats. But this guy has he just got a contract extension maybe like right before opening day. And it's just been so exciting to watch him. He's been really good. Trey Mancini, who everyone was freaking out, signed in the offseason, but he had to start, sluggish start, but now he's picking it up. He's batting .316 in the last 7 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. So pretty good. On the, who do you guys got that's pretty hot right now?
So I actually wanted to do a little bit of a zigzag with that. I have the entire back end of the Marlins bullpen, Dylan Floro and AJ Puck. I told you I didn't want to give away the whole book on AJ Puck, and that's because I wanted to drop a couple stats. So he's got a 1.0 ERA. Besides, it was the second game of the season. Either way, it was opening weekend against the Mets. It was his first appearance. Marlins are up 2-0. AJ Puck gives up a solo home run to Pete Alonso in the 9th inning. That was it. Only run scored that game. Still gets the 2-1 save. He hasn't given up a single run since then. He has thrown 7 scoreless outings since then, 8 innings total, 0 runs since then. So aside from that run, which was technically in March, so he has not given up a run all April. So I don't want to say that he's automatic, because I'm sure once I say that, he's going to give up 5 runs on Saturday. But he's as automatic as you can get so far. And then Dylan Floro. Dylan Floro is not a name that a whole lot of people know. But he's been the Marlins' 8th inning guy. What I kept saying about this bullpen last year was it was full of a bunch of middle reliever guys that are fine in the 6th, 7th inning. Maybe if your pitcher has a short start, they can go in the 5th inning. But we didn't have any 8th inning or 9th inning guys. Dylan Floro has been the perfect setup man so far. He's been their 8th inning pitcher. He's got a 2.35 ERA. That 2.35 ERA came from Wednesday night against the Braves. He gave up 3 runs. It was the first time all year that he gave up any runs at all. First time all year he gave up multiple hits. And that was it. Everything else has been just a big goose egg. 0-0-0-0. He came back Thursday afternoon, delivered a scoreless and hitless 9th. He actually got the save opportunity in the comeback victory from the Marlins. So the Marlins have had this thing now where, and again, this hasn't been the case in years. I've been following this team since I was 5. Years since the Marlins have been in a position where if they have the lead in the 8th inning, they're not giving it up. So that 8th and 9th inning battery, I would say that those are the hots.
Okay. And then, I was going to say for the Knots, Dansby Swanson has been struggling, but he just had his first Cubs home run today. But since you went bullpen, I'm going to go bullpen. We do not have that lockdown closer right now, and that's been a problem. Michael Fulmer, who they signed in the offseason, he's at a 7.84 ERA right now with 2 losses. And so he has been struggling. So if you see Michael Fulmer come in, Brad Boxberger they got, and he's been okay, not spectacular. But I think with the Cubs in the 8th and the 9th inning, that's kind of a concern right now because there isn't guys that miss bat. These are guys that pitch to a lot of contact. And so that's kind of been a struggle for the Cubs so far is who is the 9th inning guy. Boxberger figures better as an 8th inning guy than a 9th inning guy. But the bullpen right now for the Cubs, I think it's going to be a lot better in the second half. I think there's some guys on the way, just not happening just yet.
Yeah, that's always frustrating was when you kind of have arms, but you just can't click the right buttons to say where does this pitcher go, which inning should this guy go into. The Marlins have had that problem for a few years. Yeah, I could name a few guys. Anthony Bass, for example, one of those guys who he was good only in certain innings. And then you would say, hey, let's try him out as a closer. And then he would be not good.
I got to ask you, I know someone else that's cold on your team that's familiar with our audience, and that is Jorge Soler struggling out of the gate. What's going on with Georgie?
So actually, right out of the gate, he was tremendous. He has cooled down a little bit, but he had a barrel rate of 42%. I want to say it would have been his season high, or sorry, his career high. He has cooled down a little bit, but he was hitting bombs for Miami, some clutch bombs as well. He had a game-tying home. It was either game-tying or a go-ahead home run a couple weeks ago. He hadn't been striking out a whole lot. He has cooled down a little bit, but for the most part, the Marlins were getting what they wanted out of him when they originally signed him last year, which was a guy who he's going to strike out. He's not going to hit for a whole lot of average, but he's going to hit home runs. Last year, they kind of got home runs. Before he had the back injury, he was on pace for 25 home runs, I believe, give and take 25 home runs. He's on pace for a little bit more than that this year. So the Marlins are getting what they want from him, and he's hitting the ball hard. The power hasn't left him.
All right. Well, we'll kind of watch closely. Good dude, and hopefully, like I said, he'll do some autograph signings in Chicago. All the people that need him on that World Series merch. But this, like you said, this should be a pretty fun series. You got that interesting pitching matchup on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, let's throw caution to the wind and see what happens.
Exactly. No, yeah, Sunday is going to be one of those who's who with the classic Sunday lineups, classic Sunday starting matchups. It'll be fun.
Well, Alex, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast. For any of our listeners that are interested, you host the Fish Stripes podcast. You guys talk all things Marlins, and I'm going to wish you guys luck after this weekend, my friend.
Of course, and you as well. Thank you so much, Paul.
All right, Crawly, great interview. Cubs and Miami Marlins. This one's going to start out Friday night.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I am going to still be positive. I still think the Cubs are going to take 2 of 3. I just hate that stadium in Miami. I just feel like the Cubs always seem to struggle there.
Have you been there, Crawly?
I have been there. I was there on opening day in 2018 when Ian Happ hit the very first pitch for the home run of the season. Okay. I think that they are going to the game 2, that TBD. Ross is being a little coy about that. I don't know. So it's hard for me to really say what's going to happen at this point. But
I take a guess.
Might be Javier Assad. I'm not sure.
Assad, right? Or some type of an opening, and then Assad comes in, something like that.
It's possible, but that's my I don't.
And that's a Fox. That's a Fox national afternoon game.
Right. So that Roenis Elias,
if that matters, but.
Right, Roenis Elias maybe, or Javier Assad. So I like Stroman, and I like Justin Steele in game 3 for sure. So I think they're going to take 2 of 3.
Yep, this should be another series the Cubs will win, absolutely. And we don't really have to do much predicting there. We're in agreement. 2 out of 3 for our Cubbies. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on all the socials. Follow us on the Fly the W Facebook page, Fly the W on 670, Instagram, and of course, email us, flythew670gmail.com. And now you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to this Fly the 670 score on the YouTube channel. Crawly, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Good thing they're probably not playing here in Chicago because the rain is supposedly coming heavy on Saturday and Sunday. So the Cubs games will happen. You can listen to Pat and Ron or watch them on TV and enjoy yourself.
The Cubs are taking their talents to South Beach. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!